So for me, when we look at issues of electing the same leaders every day, you have to question the voter. You have to ask the voter what is really happening in across Africa. Why is it that those leaders, they haven't served us as a nation, but yet they're elected time and time again? And that is something that I feel voters need civic education, not just as long as you can vote, we have to try and make sure that all people who are eligible to vote understand we cannot be electing leaders who do not serve us. And we must call for transformation. We must do that. And how do we do that when we don't have people to be elected in the ballot paper?
Yeah.
So why do I talk about those 18 candidates that had come forward? Because out of that, there was two women. One did not make the whatever. So I was the only woman that is left. And then you've got the other 17 candidates. So if Kenyans had 17 candidates, why is it there was not 17 names in those ballot papers so Kenyans can actually go and choose whoever they feel? And then the other thing that when I talk about accessibility, what I think should happen
Yeah.
is it is very hard currently in our own systems that every single day, even it's happening now, there's mass registration. And when you look at the country right now, there is already conversation. Oh, this one is going to be the president. I'm not going to mention name because if I mention any name, they will say I've endorsed them. So I'm not going to mention names. But
You don't
look
want to
at it
endorse
in
people,
that
yet
way.
you wanted to be endorsed. Where were?
Yes, I wanted to, yes, no, but remember that was the president at the time. So
Mm,
there's a difference.
yeah.
But right now, the candidates are still coming forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to give opportunity to any Kenyan, so I'm not being, to give opportunity to any Kenyan with
Mm,
love, and
mm,
that is why I suggest what I'm suggesting.
yeah.
We need that. Number one, I feel that for those candidates who are already campaigning massively on the ground
Yeah.
currently,
Yeah.
I called for them to be disqualified. That is one thing that I did call for.
Why?
Now ask me exactly. I called for it because if you look at the last 5 years, every single day in our country, yeah, there is no work. Every day is politics. Every day it is on the ground, from the time that they've been elected to, a whole 5 years. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at, if you think about it from that perspective, what happens is, even if you went in and stood right now, without being given a platform on the media, and I'm talking about the main media
Mm,
outlets
mm,
currently, which are already going on, which constantly talk about the very same people, then already some of the candidates are disadvantaged. Yeah, so they are disadvantaged in a way that if, say, you decided to come out right now and
yeah.
you decided I want to stand, at what stage will you be given your speech? It's only at the time that you're going at the ballot paper.
I am here. You talking about the media and the role of the media in ensuring that democracy does function.
Yes.
My biggest predicament as a practitioner in this industry has always been the hopefuls politically. When they are called, they first want to find out hii inaonekana wapi, forgetting the very people you are targeting are actually the very
Yes.
people you are running away from. So to
Correct.
me, the
Yeah.
political class, and now this is my very strong opinion, it has nothing to do with Court FM, disclaimer. My strong opinion is political candidates and leaders who are emerging have converted the media into a catwalk session and a runway.
Correct.
So, if you are asked to come and speak on issues, for you it's not relevant as long as it does not click to your click. I don't know if I'm making sense. So, who then do you blame when the conventional media that are controlling the numbers go for the candidates that can pay for the sessions. You just said your biggest struggle was when called upon, people want you to give them money before they can talk
Correct.
about what you're offering as a leader.
Yeah.
How then do we decide to cross this gap and say, candidates that are hopefuls, use any available opportunity to sell your candidature? So, who then do you blame when it comes to the media positioning and messaging of political, activation? Where is the issue?
Let me tell you, Ellie, it is absolutely difficult to even get a platform to some of those media outlets. In fact, if you are if you're blessed, and somebody, for me to be able to have even gotten into the media pipeline, I did say, even if you're talking about the two strongest candidates who Kenyans thought they were the two strongest candidates. To me, I didn't think they were the strongest candidate. I felt actually it's time for all of them
Yeah.
not to be leaders in the country. Hence the reason I wanted to step up,
Yeah.
and I wanted to show Kenyans it can be done. And I wanted Kenyans to be brave as well, to make sure they come out despite all the challenges and contest,
Yeah.
So for me, what I discovered is even those media outlets have already belonged to one or the other big fishes. So it was great that they were giving me a chance
Yeah.
to speak my voice.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was aware in myself that they want to try and amplify their voice and compare my manifesto, which is what I was trying to open earlier on, which I will read for you.
Mm.
And can I tell you something special? What
Engage
I
me.
discovered later,
Yeah.
yes, what I discovered later, and not again to mention, you know, so basically, I was told that my manifesto was a template
Mm.
of both political parties, uh, of both political
Yeah.
um, that they used my template. Now that was interesting to me. That was
Maybe,
interesting,
maybe
and it
before
made me feel
just
very
maybe before I let you go off the hook on this one, what exactly stood out
yes,
in your manifesto that you think was adopted
yes.
across and today is benefiting Kenyans? Maybe you can read that to us.
So the first one was improve agriculture and address food security, youth empowerment, and employment.
I need you to tell
So,
me what was
yes.
the game changer with your agenda and manifesto when it comes to agriculture and food security? Because for me, that's a big, big conversation.
So what I wanted is Kenya mpya, haki zetu, and I wanted us to develop our land across every farm, and support our farmers in that, and support them well. When I say support them well, I was just giving you an example of that young, beautiful youth um, who lives with a grandmother, and the grandmother mpaka wa leo hajaweza kujenga nyumba, and yet we have leaders in those constituency who drive 20 cars, those 20, 30 cars, some of them, with one car, if you sold one car, you would actually be able to build proper toiletries in the whole town center to be used by people. So that is what I'm talking about, um,
Mm.
uh, Likuyani,
Yeah.
when I think about those, when a Kenyan looks at you,
Yeah.
they look at what is in your pocket. They don't look at what is in your brain. They look at what is in your pocket instead of looking at um, what social value can you add and improve to the next neighbor and the next neighbor and the next neighbor. They don't, they look at have you got, and frankly speaking, I'm able to say that because I've lived a good life. And right now, I just want to live a normal life, and a normal life like. Sometimes I'm thinking, do I really want a big television? And sometimes I think, no, I want this little, just something I can watch and I'm happy. That is me. I'm not saying to you that you should. I'm just saying, just have enough. You
So
understand?
this
Just have,
enough that you have, it's something
yeah,
that mwananchi, the ordinary citizen we are trying to talk
mhm,
about,
yeah,
does not have, from the basics
exactly.
of not sure about where the next meal is coming from the basics
Ex-
of not knowing if the rains will bring them floods or if they will bring them, a happy ending when it comes to food. So
So let me come to that
break
now.
it down for me.
So the next thing I wanted was us raising standard for the poor and vulnerable, and equal access to justice for the poor and marginalized underrepresented communities. That is why I had that. And what am I saying on that? If you look at the average mwananchi right now, cost of living is so up right now. Um, Taxes are quite high. Did you know that Kenya has one of the highest taxes? Yeah, when I look at that, and some of you will argue,
Who are
oh,
you
it's,
comparing this with? Which country are you comparing with?
I'm comparing it with some of the Western countries actually. Yeah, so and I've done my calculation.
Yeah.
So
Pick an example. Give me UK, for example. What is the
yeah,
tax ratio against the average, basic salary that people receive?
yeah. So you would in London you would be looking at outside London and inside London. So if you looked at out in inner London, you would see that people have got a little bit of a higher salary than the ones that are in the rural.
Yeah.
There's a London allowance that is also added. So
Mhm.
that sort of like equates into some of the cost of living that you see.
Let's
And
break down the Kenyan paycheck, all right?
yeah,
Let's try and break it
let
down.
me break it down. I
Yeah, no,
love
no,
doing that.
no, no.
Let me
Just
break
a
it down.
second. Allow me to engage you. Let's
Yeah,
break it down. If you look at the
yeah,
Kenyan paycheck, the first
yes.
things, there are statutory deductions that come in. There is now the biggest question in the room, which is SHA, and among others, there's the housing levy, there is the normal pay as you earn, NSSF, just to mention but a few, and circle loans here and there.
Mhm.
What do you think should be retracted from the Kenyan employee paycheck?
So, what I should ask as a question is, do Kenyans really receive the services that they are being taxed on? So I think I will put that question back into
Many
what is.
many will argue, yes, they do. There are people who actually walk into hospital and they leave. So in short, the experiences will be different. So to me,
Mm-hmm,
probably the question is,
mm-hmm,
how do we ensure we harmonize such that I don't have to guesswork if I walk to the hospital, if either I'll get the treatment that I'm paying for or not. But
uh,
I just want you to take me through from your
yes,
analysis in terms of
yes,
if you were to be president, because that's what you
yes,
are vying for.
yes,
What are the
yes.
things that
So,
your cabinet will try
yeah,
to, persuade Parliament to look
yeah,
into in order to give
yeah,
the Kenyan employee some relief? What are these
yeah.
things you look into?
So, at the time, what I was looking for, because I don't want you to pin me down as if I'm campaigning, because I'm not campaigning right now, and I want us to go back to the topic
Beyond the
of
ballot.
the
This is what
of the
happens. Yes.
yes, yeah. So I'm avoiding that route of really going technically to what if I'm going to be campaigning, what I'm going to be campaigning about. I
Mm.
love to keep that. I love to, if I'm going to be campaigning, then for now, I just want us to talk about the education, the civics education
Yeah.
that our voters really need. So, but at the time, because it was then, what I would have wanted is every mwananchi of Kenya and every citizen of Kenya needed to have um, good medical services. And at the time, may I also tell you that 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 Kenyans were really struggling
Mm.
in terms of what I call medical negligence. You have to look at it from that perspective. in the sense that Kenyans can go to a hospital right now and they can actually be seen by a doctor. But what is really happening is, can they follow up the prescription that has been given? So what I was looking at that time is how a Kenyan will enter hospital. But you can imagine every single morning or even at night, unaenda unaangalia mgonjwa wako to see that they've taken medicine. In some cases, you can even give medicine, but actually that medicine is not given on time. So, or something has happened in between. And so I call that some kind of a lack of proper care while people are in hospital. So I wanted us to make sure that responsibility was being taken for every Kenyan, that medical negligence was no longer the case for any person that was going to hospital, and accountability was there so that if you are ill, you can trust the hospital. Look at what happens. Most of these big people, are they really treated in our own countries? They are not. Most of them either will go to India or they will go to Europe or they will go to America. And why is that? Because of what I call they fear the medical negligence that I'm talking about right now. So
Are
what
we talking about negligence? Are we talking about the inadequate investment into our own local solutions? Because
no, it's
when I
negligence.
look,
Negligence for the fact that if Mugonjwa is not being given medicine on time, that is negligence. Because if any average Kenyan, if you're told, go and buy this medicine, I can assure you today, you will go look for money and buy that medicine. But if you're inside the hospital and you're not given that tablet on time, or that tablet is not recorded, whatever, the reason why everybody wakes up in the morning to rush, whether you're taking cheap, affordable hospitals, is because you are making sure that you care about your mgonjwa and you're making sure that that person has been fed because you don't trust the system. So that's what's really happening there. So you asked me a question, take for example, what would I change? So I'm saying to you, what I would change is making sure that our hospitals, every hospital in our country is run properly. Now, I want to appreciate
how do you do that?
Kenyan
Because
government.
I'm curious.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
curious
yes.
because when you look at hospitals, for example, the biggest
Yeah.
issue is it's really an institution. It's management. It's really matters of governance. How do you ensure hospitals are run effectively and they are responsive to the persons or the client they're attending to? Remember, you mentioned where an idea of us traveling abroad, specifically leaders, in order to get medical attention, in your view, because of negligence. But from where I sit, it's really the aspect of governance that is lacking. Case in point, the other day, the Nairobi hospital has been on the spot for various reasons, including the aspect of mismanagement. The president was loud about it and says he will not allow, as the patron of Nairobi hospital, for it to go down drain. How were you intending, if elected, to ensure the issue of negligence is addressed once and for all? Is it from the policy aspect? Is it from the technocrats? How exactly were you going to do that?
Fight corruption as a nation, and that is absolutely one thing that we need to do together. And that is why I keep saying, if you elect the same leaders, you don't expect change. We've had those leaders, whether they've been vice presidents, whether they've been presidents, they've served. They haven't just served for 5 terms or for 5 years or 10 years. They have served. Some of them have served in constituency level for years, and you still haven't seen change. So I don't understand when people tell me that they are electing the same people. So for me, that is something that the voters need to understand, that transforming a country needs a different thinking, okay? And And that is why I'm very passionate about what I'm saying here today in Mizani 254 and, of course, in Cote FM, because why am I very particular in terms of making sure that you have people on those ballot papers? Because if you don't have those people on the ballot papers, how can you bring change anyway? So, how can you, as I said, it was the best, and you can go back and look, and I can show you the evidence that for the first time, Kenyans' feeling was, we want a different country. And so people have come forward. Why are those people not being put on those ballot papers? So, what am I saying to you? The voters need those choices. The voters not need the candidates need the accessibility to be able to stand so that the voters can be able to select or choose their rightful leaders. Now, when it comes into the big fishes who now sadly they will go around the whole country. In those round countries, everybody is given between 300 to 500 shillings. You know, one of the person asked me, do I think it's right for those voters to be given that money? I think I'm now changing my mind in terms of like thinking that what do you tell a mama, or what do you tell a young youth who has not eaten? Is it possible to actually say to that person not to take that handout? So my message is changing. Eat that handout, but don't elect that leader that has given you that handout. Because from the minute they've given you that handout, it means that when they come to power, they will be telling you ulikula, and now they are trying to regain what they've given you. So in educating our systems in place, what I'm suggesting is to you is our young people are struggling, our young people are given these handouts. So look at a place like why, and the rules are there. Don't give handouts. If you're not in, this is why the election runs into millions and billions, because you're not able to match those big fishes who own almost everything in Kenya
Mm,
today.
mm.
So, so the accessibility for a normal, a normal mwananchi entering that venue, I'm proud of myself to set the standard that we can do it. But what I'm not proud about is the voters who expect to be paid so that they can listen to what I have to offer. Okay? So there's a difference. Yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah.
interesting because you talk about the voters. And Obed, probably if you have any follow up question, I'm just going to hand you over the mic. Obed?
Yeah, I totally agree. Probably, again, unfortunately, easier said. There are specific metrics to corruption as it is in the country, we've realized. And I'm just speaking, not because I'm saying what you're saying is not right, but it tends to be bad when we are not eating. And we can see that from the people who are outside and now in government. It's a challenge. But luckily for them, they never spoke about corruption and they haven't done much to stop it. So I think it's a cancer that's a bit problematic and probably easy to say. And it's the go-to. Everybody speaks about it except for William Ruto. And I think he's stuck to what he believes. So I would love to see how that pans out because there's so much interest in government in terms of, especially in procurement, where we lose a lot of resources. And for instance, the stadia that you're seeing. So I'm gonna want to see how that is practical. But it's an interesting way to look at it, and hopefully, it's something that is possible. But corruption is a big cancer. Anything you'd like to consider in terms of health? Because a healthy nation is a wealthy nation, in my view, and education, those two areas. What would you like to do?
I always say health is wealth, wealth is health. That is one of my sayings every day. You will see me as a normal mwananchi saying that we need to have a healthy nation. And you will see I enjoy my hula hoop and you will see me hopping. And I always keep saying that pick up a hobby that you can do so that we get healthier. So some of you will laugh when you see me enjoying my hula hoop. So a healthy nation is wealthy, and wealth is health. And isn't that what we say? Health, health and wealth is absolutely go hand in hand. And without, I always say, think about it this way. You know, if you remove the word H, health, and you put the word D, is death. So if we are not healthy, we die. So let's promote health in your show and also allow for people to enjoy organic African food, organic planting. You know, I was talking about us being able to cultivate and being able to support our farmers so that they're able to feed our nation. So that's something that I really care about because by promoting this kind of ideas, you will realize that we are very blessed as a nation in Africa. But sadly, what we are doing is we are beginning to destroy our own landscape across Africa because we are looking at this Western world and we want buildings everywhere. Can you imagine? One day I dread to come in, and every day here in London, you know, I actually will try. I wish I had done this in the city, but I will take you around and you can see every day I walk around in buildings. And usually I really feel good when I'm in a park and I sit in a park and the Queen provides the park here. So every place in London has got a beautiful park. So you can sit there and enjoy yourself. Yeah, so let's say health is wealth, and let's say wealth is also health. And that is important. I know some of you will say, oh, you know, you want loads of money, but what good is all this money when your health is not good? I don't see where you're going with that. So, yeah.
All right. That is Juliet. And Juliet tells us we need to promote healthy habits. I don't know how we'll do that because, you know, now everybody's making everything very automated. Even I went to a washroom and all you have to do is wave. You can't press anymore. And even if you have to send your email, you need to just, sit very comfortably. And they know
Yes.
when it comes to matters health and people who are in the digestive system, healthcare, they'll tell you
Yes.
sometimes quoting is the best way to send an email. But anyway, Obeds, I would love for you to give us any final thoughts from your end, and probably if we can be able to start wrapping up. Obeds, over to you.
Well, there are so many things that bedevil this country, but they suck around very simple things of governance and being able to do basic stuff that I think this country has never got together. One, ensuring that there's accountability, and clearly leadership does not know how to do that. Forget about the optics of fighting corruption, like the recent thing that we have seen. And everybody among the people who present themselves for running for public office, and especially the presidency, um, we have to reassess what they have been able to do, what's their background, and their character. And it's imperative that be the case because Kenyans ignored, and have ignored this for a while, and it's come to bite. The chickens are home to roost, and unfortunately, um, the consequences are dire. People who have no capacity to lead will definitely appoint people who have no capacity to do policy. And the consequence of that is that for 5 years and for a period of time after, the effect of the bad leadership until it's done will be quite obvious. I hope that there is this opportunity presented to Kenyans and young people who today say to Kokadi to rewrite and change that narrative and interrogate leadership and allow people with integrity and capacity to do a job to be able to lead this country for the better. Because if we go another 5 years with the same people that we have today, I worry. I worry about there's so much cosmetic energy on fighting corruption, but there's little in terms of the desire to do it, and it means nothing to the people. And that corruption makes sure that you don't have medicine in hospitals, education is suffering, and we cannot afford to do this for too long, Eli, because at the end of the day, it will hit us back, and it's going to hit us badly. So I hope anybody fronting themselves and wishing to be presidential candidates and have the best intention of the country have to prove it. They have to be vetted, and the standard must be held so high so that we cannot have a repeat of the same mistakes that we have made. I think that's how I'd put it, Eli.
You're listening to Court FM. Let the music play.